I'm part of Humboldt Asians and Pacific Islanders in Solidarity, which is HAPI, otherwise known as HAPI. And I welcome all of you who've made this journey. And our story starts with the Chinese immigrants to Humboldt County in the late 1800s. It's a tale of 3 R's: resilience, resistance, and return. Please join us in hearing the unheard stories and perspectives of Humboldt's Chinese community from the past to the present. There are 9 different speakers at 9 stations with different words and concepts that capture the journey of Humboldt County's Chinese immigrants. These words are in both Chinese and English, and they're going to appear on concrete markers as part of Eureka Chinatown's project's monument, which will be completed next year. As a memento of the trip, remembrance, we have these paper dragons that have all the different steps on this journey that you will take with us, and we'll have those at the end of visiting all the stations, and also a poem by Daryl Chen. So let's make this journey together as we listen to the stories of our Chinese community from its earliest beginnings to the present. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My station is Hope. In Chinese, Xin Wang. In 1850, I left home in Toisan in the Guodong province of China in search for a better life, opportunity, and the promises of rich from the goldfields of California. And there were plenty of other reasons to leave home. There were countless of earthquakes, including large floods and severe droughts. There were epidemics and great famines, and plenty of civil unrest and poverty. The trip across the ocean was not easy. I had to borrow money from family and friends. We were stuffed into a ship which were overcrowded and disease-filled. I didn't know if it was day or night. Many died over the way, and our boat lost hundreds of souls. All you guys would have lost your life. That's how rough the boat ride was. So if you guys were to follow me, we're going to go down this path, and we're going to go across the journey and to the next station. Thank you.
My station is Gold Mountain. In Chinese, Gamsan. Gamsan was a farce, an illusion, fool's gold. We all thought that California was the land of opportunity where gold was to be had in the mountains. But when we arrived, we faced extreme racism. The only work we could find was hard labor with extremely long hours working for low wages and terrible living conditions. We were homesick and longed for our families, familiar foods, and for people who spoke our language. We had no rights, we couldn't own property here, and we were the only immigrant group that couldn't become citizens. On top of that, California passed a foreign miners tax which we had to pay. It brought in over half of California's revenue in that year. This tax and more hostility drove us to form the first Chinatowns, including the one in Eureka.
My station is Chinatown, in Chinese, Hua Ren Ji. I moved to Eureka to a growing Chinatown, built on swampy land with a creek running through it. The buildings were made of scrap lumber and it was overcrowded. 200 people living in one city block. But I found a cultural hub where people spoke Chinese, and there were similar foods, customs, and community. We found work logging, road and railroad building, farming, fishing, and as servants for the growing wealthy class. Some owned laundry businesses and markets. I worked in construction and helped build many roads and bridges in the area. Have you ever driven the Wildcat Road from Ferndale to Petrolia? I helped build that, and it wasn't easy. When the city improved the roads, they cut off the drainage through Chinatown. A pond was formed from the creek and the drainage from 17 outhouses. Scum formed on the surface, and it stunk. Locals called us foul and disease-ridden. The newspapers were filled with anti-Chinese sentiments. Today, a new mural on the historic block of Chinatown offers back the foul image to the Chinese community in a new light entitled Foul.
My station is expulsion. In Chinese, Pai Hua. I was a Chinatown resident on that fateful day in February 1885 when there was a dispute. A Eureka City councilman died from a stray bullet at the edge of Chinatown. Chinese residents were blamed. An angry mob formed, and within 24 hours, we were driven out of Eureka. They called it a nonviolent expulsion, but gallows were built threatening death to any Chinese who remained more than 24 hours. We were forced into a waterfront warehouse, then put on a steamship, never to return to Humboldt County. I disappeared into the throngs of San Francisco Chinatown and found safety and anonymity. But my heritage has been lost. No one remembers that I lived here, or my story. It wasn't just the accidental death of a white person that banished us from Humboldt. There was a widespread economic depression and false claims of the Chinese competing for skilled jobs and working at a lower pay. Newspapers encouraged mounting prejudice against the Chinese people. We were the scapegoats. We were also the people that grew your fresh vegetables, brought in fresh fish, cleaned your laundry and your homes, cooked your meals. We were integral parts of the community and made a home for ourselves in Eureka. Somewhere here in Arcata was a Chinatown too, like other towns in Humboldt County. Not a trace remains. What would it have been like if we hadn't been driven out?
I speak for Ah Hao and Tai Kim, two women who were part of the Wing Hing lawsuit against the city of Eureka, which was filed in 1886, a year after the expulsion. 55 former Chinese residents of Eureka filed the lawsuit in the name of Wing Hing, a Chinatown merchant. We were rich and poor and men and women, and we sued for the loss of property, businesses, and income from the expulsion. The first reparations suit of its kind. The city of Eureka was able to get the case dropped. The city successfully filed a motion that removed key parts of the case, including the city's role in the expulsion and the loss of the Chinese movable property. The case was postponed and then finally dismissed 3 years later. It was not appealed because earlier rulings of the Supreme Court went against the Chinese because we were alien residents and could not own real estate. We could not own real estate because we could not be citizens. But still, the fight for reparations tells a story of resistance from those of us denied equal rights.
My station is resilience. In Chinese, Gang Ro. I speak for Charlie Moon. People say I'm the last Chinaman in Humboldt County. I don't know. When I was a teenager, I went to work for Mr. Tom Bear, at his Redwood Creek ranch, and I, was hired as a handyman, and I take care of his children. Mr. Bear want his best laborer, so he defended me when a group of vegetarian vigilante, just checking. A bunch of group of vegetarians came by. I'm sorry. The vigilante came, and he defended me from that. So I never have to leave Humboldt County. I married Minnie Tom, who is a Cholula woman from Redwood Creek, and we have 9 children together. Yeah, 9 children. The good old days. Our family have flourished despite being disproportionately exposed to violence, trauma, and murder. Today, we have family members represented in all the local indigenous tribes. We are Talawa, Cholula, Hupa, Karuk, and Yurok. So I wasn't the only Chinese person here. There was Willie Bow, who lived near Montefiore, and others that live in Hupa and Orleans, up to 250 of us here in the backcountry. They were taken in by the local tribes, and in the words of Tom Bear, were able to pass themselves off as Indian. Their story remains untold, another gap in our history.
Again, my station is return, Fan Hui in Chinese. This is about Ben Chin. Ben Chin was the first Chinese American person to settle in Eureka after the expulsion 70 years earlier. Born in Guangdong province, the starting point of many of Eureka's Chinese immigrants from long ago, Ben immigrated to the United States at the age of 8. He was then drafted and served in the U.S. military in the 1940s, and then he worked in the restaurant businesses in Portland and Cottage Grove, Oregon. In 1954, Ben moved to Eureka and opened the Canton Cafe, the first Chinese business in Humboldt County since the expulsion in 1885. Ben got a lot of phone calls telling him to get out of Eureka when he first moved here. His restaurant was initially allowed only one other Chinese cook to work there because there was fear that allowing more Chinese Americans back into the city would be a bad thing. The Chin family worked to establish the beginnings of a Chinese community by sponsoring around 20 Chinese people, many of whom were family members, and they later worked at the restaurant. Ben and his wife Mary Chin stood strong against racism, and their efforts have helped build our community here.
My station is community. In Chinese, Hop Doxy. I am Li Sukying, born in Schenectady, New York, to immigrant parents who came to this country from China for the same reason that the early Chinese who immigrated to this county, to Humboldt, hope for a better life. I'm an American, just like any of you who are born in this country or naturalized are American, right? Regardless of your roots. I'm also a wife, a great-grandmother, a retired Cal Poly professor, a retired scientist, a Unitarian Universalist, and a breast cancer survivor, and a community and climate activist. When I moved to Arcata 50 years ago, there was no Chinese or Asian community here. And as a woman faculty member in an all-male biological sciences department, I didn't always feel at home. I'm grateful for those early welcoming arms of early university fellowship and a few Chinese American friends, either born in this country or immigrants, because of their persistence, the resistance, the resilience, and there has been a gradual return now of the Chinese and a varying, diverse, ethnic Asian community here. And now there is a growing, rich, and diverse Asian American community here. What I've realized over time and circumstance is that finding community, finding home and place, finding belonging is an ongoing, lifelong, morphing process. I'm grateful to be with a loving partner and to have family and treasured extended family here. Knowing that the inhabitants of Eureka's Chinatown came from the same region that my parents came from, I feel even more so that my place is here. My community is here. I belong here, and I am home here.
Hello, my name is Fiona Roney McNeil, and I'm at the Station for Hope, or Zong Wong in Chinese. At 1 week of age, I was left on the doorstep of a Fuling District Welfare Orphanage in Chongqing, Sichuan, China. Flyers emblazoned with my photo were pasted on bulletin boards asking if they knew who this child belonged to. No one came forward. After a year of living at the orphanage, I was adopted and immigrated to the United States, leaving behind my birth family and my country. My hope for Chinese Americans in Humboldt is that their stories will be seen, heard, and respected. They will be visible. Despite all that was lost due to immigration, discrimination, and exclusion, I hope all Asian Americans will find and form a nurturing community that they can call home, just as I have here in Humboldt County. Thank you.
My name is Darrell Ni Chin. I'm the son of a father who came to America under President Lincoln, who went to Angel Island, and another grandfather who came to Seattle and was listed on his immigration papers as not going to become a laborer. This poem is written to make you and us think. The Water Book of Questions. What brings you here? Why have you stayed? Why are you still here? Were you on that boat? Aye. What do you feel when you learn about this? Who are your people? No, who really are your people? If we all go away, what remains? Mom! About that time, what do you say to family? Mom. One photograph. Are you in it? We are newcomers. Strangers to the language, the food, the stories. What do we know of being expelled, excluded, turned away, delayed, arrested, threatened, spit on, beat up? Speak up. People forget. People deny. Does the land forget? Does the land deny? Does the air remember? How do we talk without words? Do the animals and trees pass down memories like horses standing silently next to one another? What is our language? What is memory? Is it stories or rumors? Is it in a book never opened? A stone in rain? There is no island where this happened. Only a photo of men on a boat. We have no place to show. Why would anyone want a place like this to show everyone, to show the world? Thank you all for coming. This concludes this segment of Migrations.
Gracias a nuestros amigos y amigas de HAPI. Thank you to our HAPI friends.